back quick to this hypnotist thing. Chris Grando, one of our forwards, had a hat trick last weekend. Phenomenal player. But I didn't believe in hypnotism until you came into our office today. And you had a great story about Chris Grando, about him getting hypnotized.
Well, it was one of those. He had a beautiful, ugly sweater on, and it had lights and glitter and everything that was going on. And one of his code words would be when he would hear the professional Jeff's name, when Jeff would say his own name, he would instantly think his shirt was on backwards and turn it around. And it was priceless to watch because he's fighting through this ugly sweater that he's trying to get turned around. And I mean, and there was many parts of the night that were great, but to see Chris, who's one of the younger, kind of a shyer kid, not knowing that he was putting on a show for everybody was actually very neat.
That's got to be tough in front of your teammates. They're going to jab him a little bit later on, Scott?
It is, but as I listen to the story, it's stuff like this, the character that's built on a team and brings all the guys together. So, those 2-2 games, those 3-3 games, all of a sudden, there's a comfort level because you've been through some uncomfortable moments like that, it can help you with hockey, too. It's a great idea to do.
It is my honor here to bring in the Gamblers president. He was a part of one of the biggest turnarounds, if not the biggest turnarounds in USHL history, taking a 13-win team that struggled to get attendance to a 39-win team. And 6 to 7 years later, 3 Anderson Cup championships, 2 Clark Cup championships. We are now joined by Gamblers president Brendan Bruss. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So I got to go back to the beginning. 2007, 2008. A season that I saw for the Green Bay Gamblers, that was kind of, I don't want to use the word rock bottom, but it was kind of rock bottom there. Attendance was at about 79,000. You knew changes had to be made. And I want to ask you, you got the job in 2008. What was your first step?
Well, the first thing I had to do was we had to hire a head coach and general manager. But I always like to point out that, 2007, we talk about that a lot internally because that's when I took over. But the Gamblers have a deep tradition. We had a stretch of 3 to 4 years, that didn't go so well. But I'm really conscious to say, that wasn't the definition of the Gamblers program. I think the definition was we had to get back to what the Gamblers were when they started. I mean, when they started in 94, 95 with Granado and Osiki, there's great teams. And I think they had an aura and an atmosphere, and we had lost that. So, yeah, I had worked with PMI internally, and I had been starting to look at it from a business perspective because we talk about the hockey side, but in the United States Hockey League, we need to make the business work, and that was also very poor at the time. We had some bad losing years on the ice and some really bad losing years off the ice. So it was at a critical mass for the organization. So we needed to go in a new direction. We really needed the organization to be on one page, and I felt at the time that we just didn't have everybody on the same page. And I don't care what organization, sports team, business you're running, if everybody doesn't have a vision and identity of what you're doing, it's not going to work. I mean, you can't just get lucky all the time. And if anybody knows me, I'm not a big fan of hope as a strategy. So I really don't like to keep hoping it's going to get better. And so I stepped up and say, listen, we need one person. We need the hockey and the business side to work together. And I had done a lot of talking to people, just not only what's wrong financially, but in that talking during that time, trust me, when you're bad, people will tell you. I mean, anybody knows. Outsiders are not shy to tell you exactly why you suck and why it's going bad. But you have to be willing to listen, and I think that's the thing we did is, Jeff Mitchell is on our staff, Ken Walker's in the organization. A lot of people know us, but, it gotten to the point, but we had to be willing to listen and say, all right, why are we where we are now, and what do we need? So I'd say the first thing was to hire a coach, but the other thing we talk about is the first thing I did was I wrote a vision statement for the team. And in that statement, it's saying we're going to compete for and win championships. We're going to have a swagger about the program. We're going to play anybody, any place, anywhere, anytime. And those are key to me because we didn't talk like that as an organization. To me, we're a sports team. And at the end of the day, we need somebody that talks like that. It's not just, hey, come on out and enjoy the family fun and Buck Night and bring the family. And, of course, we had gotten so bad we started advertising. Don't worry, it's not about the hockey. You'll have a lot of fun regardless. So we needed to pull that together, and that's one thing we did, and that defined who we hired.
2010 was a magical season. John Cooper, of course, his second year 45-10-5 record. And does anything, Brendan, stick out from that year or that turnaround? Or could you imagine it going that successful right off the bat?
I'd be lying if I said yes. I mean, because to be honest, what John did, we had the worst record in the USHL the year before I took over and hired John, and then we had the largest turnaround in 2008-9. So to win the Clark Cup championship in 2009-10, no, I couldn't predict that. But what's magical about that is just to see how John built a team and built an atmosphere, and it's, you know, he and I would talk about, you know, there's nothing that develops people like winning does. And he's a slave to winning. He's a slave to every night. If you're going to compete, you might as well win. And it hit the philosophy of what, you know, we wrote in our vision was, let's play anybody, any place, anytime. It doesn't matter. That's what we want to have. And how he demonstrated that kind of vision into a team was pretty magical. So just to see, and also the special thing for me was when we won it and we had fans come on the ice, and I saw people who really loved our program and had suffered through some pretty lean times, to see their enjoyment was probably the thing I enjoyed the most about that night.
You know, somebody that's listening right now may not understand is the Gamblers are just part of your job. You know, the other side of it on the Resch Center, you and Ken Wachter are also creating an atmosphere. And one of the biggest things that you guys achieved this year is the brand new scoreboard, and that does create quite the atmosphere.
Yeah, I tell you, if you haven't been to the Resch Center to watch a hockey game, even, you know, the Phoenix basketball team's playing tonight, where the two big sports where the scoreboard is in play, it has changed the atmosphere of that building. It's night and day. You know, we had a scoreboard that came out in 2002, and like I say, it's 5 years before the iPhone was even invented. So, you know, it was a little bit slow watching that scoreboard and trying to translate what was happening. You couldn't see the puck on a highlight. But going in the Resch Center now with the technology, and today's, you know, we're in the arena business, so we talk a lot about the technology and this and how it affects the fan. And it is a total different expectation of people that go to games now than when I was growing up. You know, I'm getting kind of old now, and I still talk about, I remember the day when we didn't have to have video, and it was just the sound of the bat, or you could just hear the puck hit off the glass, and we didn't need all this other stuff. Well, that's just not the expectation nowadays. And so it's very important that, you know, people want to be connected. They want to see video. They want to see highlights. And that scoreboard, you know, is about a $1.8 million project. And it has changed the atmosphere, and it's very exciting. So we couldn't be happier with it.
And for Pat's sake, instant replay on goals. Right, Pat?
Well, we're waiting for that to be official. That should be any day now.